Tonight on Nova Legends podcast, I have my esteemed panel of Northern Virginia high school soccer coaches and Coach Bo. We're going to discuss the regular season, which is concluding this week, and then the postseason. Guys, thanks for doing this. Great to see you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Of course. Well, let me reintroduce you, guys, to everyone. First, I have Sean Burke. His Woodson team is undefeated. He's trying to fly low under the radar. He's definitely an early pick for Coach of the Year, but I believe he's at 8 wins and 3 ties, Coach.
Sorry about that.
In a really strange tie to Langley, where the ball didn't move across the center line much in the overtime period. But Coach is doing a great job. He's won a couple state championships. And I know he'd like to get another. Coach, good seeing you again.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words.
Oh, sure. Then I got Coach John Millward. Coach has been to the state title game in 2 of the last 3 years. And every year he loses people, and everyone thinks he's done. And somehow he's back. And this year he's undefeated. He's got a tie. Who'd you tie, Coach?
The gentleman there in the bottom right corner for me.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Drickey.
That's a big one. So that's a rivalry game. But anyway, Coach is doing a great job again. They play beautiful soccer. Coach, good seeing you again, Coach.
Appreciate it, Julian. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Then I got Dan Drickey, who obviously he beat tied Coach Millward this year, but last year got all the way to the state final. Oh no, you got to the state semifinal, I believe, Coach. And you won the regional. Had an amazing year. You lost some kids. I think a couple of them are at Mary Washington. But look, this is postseason. I know you're working on some plan to upset the apple cart. But good seeing you as well, Coach.
Thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Coach. Well, then we got Coach Bo Amato, obviously the star of the show. This time is actually on time. Usually we have to wait for Bo. But Bo,
right, that's all right.
Well, we pushed back the meeting so he could get his hair done. And
exactly.
Before it falls out. Yeah.
Exactly. Coach's team has done well this year. Last year got to the States again after winning the States in 2022. Team has played good soccer this year in a very, very tough Liberty. Maybe as tough as ever. No off nights. Coach again has his team playing good soccer. Coach, great to see you again as well.
Yeah, thanks. Good to see everybody here. So rather we were sitting around a table having a drink than doing this, but that's okay.
Yeah, we'll do that soon, right?
We keep saying that, but for some reason I'm still thirsty.
Well, first, let's talk a little bit about expectations. Now, when I talked to Coach Burke the other day, he doesn't like a whole lot of expectations on his team. He wants to keep the head down and just play soccer. Coach Bo, he never has anything. They stink. They won't win one game. He doesn't have a player that can kick the ball. Coach Millward, he likes being the front runner. He likes people, we're playing well, we're doing great. And, it's worked for him. I haven't got a read on Coach Drickey on this yet, but how important is, whether or not teams are up for you, the expectations, does it make it harder to get kids, focused at practice, or maybe having those expectations make them, gain confidence and make them actually play better in games? How do you guys handle those types of situations? Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll say just since we were chatting about this the other day, I mean, I think all of us know our teams, and we also play within our personalities. We coach within our personalities. So I think at the end of the day, some teams can handle it. I think John's teams, they have swagger about them, the way they get after it. I mean, and John, it just follows social media. He's turned the whole culture around in that school, not only just the team. So I think that's just how that works and rides. I think if I did that at Woodson, oh my God, I'd quit at halftime and we'd just go home. It would be over. Like certain teams, like they get too far ahead of themselves. Others, it's sort of like, what, we are this good. Coach believes in us, and I think it propels Lewis to be even better. And that's why John's had such consistency over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been outstanding.
Yeah. Well, Coach John, he's calling you out.
I know. I thank you so much, Sean. Appreciate you.
Doing a great job.
With regards to this mindset, right? I mean, I think Bo said it in one of these earlier discussions we've had. It pays it pays dividends to embrace that mindset, right? That mindset that you're always going to be challenged. Everybody's coming after you, and you got to defend that opportunity. And this year we've been blessed with a lot of kids stepping up to that opportunity, through injuries, through, again, real good soccer problems to have, able to get, a good group of 20 kids contributing on an average basis, average night in, night out, practice day in, day out. It's just been a blessing, and, really kind of motivating these kids that, there's bigger mountains to climb, and, we haven't reached the peak yet, is a big message that we talk about, week in and week out. So, I think that challenge is something that, these young men need, right? Because if they get complacent, life just passes you by. So all these guys, want to do big things in life. And, that's been a big message too, is, working towards big things. You don't identify what that big thing is because, those can mean different things to different players. But, my staff and I do a good job of making sure that we try to recognize what each guy's individual goal is and how we can build that into that team vision and messaging.
Yeah. And thanks, John. And Coach Dan, this year you probably worn a target on your back because your success last year. And also Hayfield, they're making headlines in other sports as well. Does that target follow you? Or folks more up for you this year than they have been in years past?
Yeah, I think that's part of the case. The other part of the case is kind of managing expectations, right? Because I think 90% of the teams in our area believe they're the best team in the area. Realistically, that's not true. I think there are a handful of teams that can call themselves the best in the area. But it's making sure that the boys understand that, and that the boys are aware of how good or not good they are in that given moment, and making sure that they play to the best of their ability. Without going too far down the rabbit hole, there's so many other voices in their head and things that they see on the club circuit, on the recruiting circuit, that sometimes it's about grounding them, and letting them know that one game at a time, at any given time, it's the old adage, right? That any given Sunday, somebody can beat you. But I think Northern Virginia soccer at the high school level, that's spot on accurate. If you're not playing your best, you will not succeed.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parity this year. I think I haven't seen any team that's unbeatable this year yet. I've seen lots of quality everywhere, and I think the level of play is high, but I think parity is also high. So it's really fun to watch. Now, Coach Bo, how do you handle expectations? You won some state championships at Langley. Your parents are very high achievers outside the building, and they expect a lot of you. But how do you handle that in terms of working with your kids?
Well, I don't think that there's any expectation from the parents to start with. To be honest with you, they're actually really nice people, and at the end of the day, I think they just want their kids to have a good experience in the school, regardless of whether they win or lose. So there's a good attempt to have a little jab there, but massive.
As a Yorktown parent, my job is to jab at Langley parents. So that's just what we. Okay.
I know, but no, I mean you want to win every year, but I forget who said it. I think it was either Sean, John, or Daniel, or Drickster. But the reality is, I think we're a team that can beat anybody, but the problem is we can also lose to anybody. So I think that's probably the same for most teams. Like, we're a team that this year everybody has to play our A game for 80 minutes, and that includes everybody sitting on the bench, the whole ride on the bus, preparation before the game, how we sleep the night before, do we drink and eat the right stuff. So it's that little commitment that's going to make the difference of winning and losing. And unfortunately, when you have big squads like I tend to do, sometimes that can cause issues, and sometimes it won't. But I'm a believer in giving people a chance and letting the cream rise to the top. But we live in a society where we don't want to create cream anymore. We just want everybody to be happy, and I don't fit in, and I've had enough of it. So, the reality is I'll compete until the day I drop dead. It kind of offends people, but there's a lot of players that gravitate to that and like it, and there's a lot of human beings that like it as well. But I think it's important. I'm very happy with the group. We're young, but we've got two seniors that I think are really important to all the boys on the team. We're trying to extend their season for as long as possible. But we got 2 very hard games to end the season, and that will determine how we do. Well, if we get a home game for playoffs, and if not, we're on the road and on the yellow bus, I guess. But the reality is we compete, and that's all you can ask for. Some days we don't compete at our best, and there's a couple of games that have been interesting. Losing one game when the clock was on 0 for 2.5 or 3.5 minutes was a shocking experience, but we've all been there. But me, it was quite recent, so I'm still pretty pissed off about it.
That was a big win for Herndon, because that kind of turned their season around. So Coach, you bring up a good point. You got 2 big games this week. How important is this week in terms of results? Now, I know that you can win the district regular season title, but I believe the banner they give is for the team that wins the district tournament. I don't think that the regular season means as much. I'm not sure if I'm right about that. But other than seedings or buys in the tournament, does the regular season mean anything to you guys?
In the Liberty district, only one team gets protected. I think there's one district, I forget which one it is, where everybody qualifies for regionals, but in our district, there's 1 protected and 3 go home. So that first playoff game is traumatizing if you lose it. I think we've lost a couple of those in the past, and kind of borderline euphoric if you win, because even if you lose the final, who cares? Because I think as a school, the years we did win the states, I think 2 of those years we didn't even win the district. Right? So in fact, I know for a fact 2 years we didn't win the district. So the reality is that first game is so important, and probably more so for more teams this year than ever, because we've talked about the parity. And the reality is, I think we think back to last year's playoffs, a couple of number 1 or number 2 seeds lost very early in the district, and a lot of us were very relieved, but it didn't really help because only 2 of these gentlemen went deep, quite deep. So the reality is, upsets happen. That's the beauty of us. The one reason that football, if people stop tampering with it, is the greatest sport in the world. Any team on any given day can win, but people keep tampering with it and changing the rules and having different rules for. It's getting on my nerves. So we just keep trying to fix things. The game hasn't changed in 100 years it's been played, except the only difference is the balls are now made of plastic when they were nice and leather, and the boots that don't protect the kids' feet in a tackle are now made of plastic that cost $1 to make. But because Ronaldo wears them and Nike's given them all the money, we're going to rip off the parents and rip off the kids and let them buy something that's a complete garbage. Adidas, horrible people.
But at least there's no $500 bat like in baseball. Anyone else want to jump in here, guys, about how important the games are the last week? If other than the seedings, I guess. So I guess.
So like to that point, and this is for the national district. I think Patriot does it slightly different, but this is the first year that we're going back to the traditional system where all 8 teams don't make it through. The interesting twist on that is they did put a little bit of weight to your regular season record with regards to the seeding of the 5th and 6th coming out of the district. So like the National District 5 or National District 6 seed, should it be the regular season, champion, they would automatically have a 5th or 6th seed for the regional berth, should they lose that first game. So that's a nice little protection to have in the back of the mind. And it's a nice spot to be in. But at the same time, it's also, there's so much to play for. This week for us, it's our last home game, last game of the season. So it's our senior night. So a lot of these kids have an opportunity to play. But it's also an incredibly important match for us going up against Edison. It's just like Hayfield. It's the triangle of schools down here in Springfield. So, that game's always a freaking battle through and through, first whistle to the end. So it's, we call it the battle for Franconia Road for a reason. A lot of bragging rights, a lot of middle school, split ups that happen. So these kids are all juiced for it. And, some of the seniors that haven't had a lot of opportunity to contribute a good amount of minutes are going to get good look and have their name called through the speaker and, get to recognize them for their contributions to the program. And that's a real big deal. So, while I'm nervous as heck that senior night is a district game, I didn't pick the schedule. It is what it is. So this is what we're doing. Boys have to play, next man up. So over here.
on my son's senior night, we played Bo and Langley, and
Nice.
Langley just gets after it. So I mean, so Coach Carlos, he tried to put the seniors in, and like after like 6 minutes, he took the non-starters out because Langley was relentless. I mean, that was the year they won the state, and everything was challenged. So it wasn't a good night for senior night. We should have had it, weeks earlier. The game ended up being a draw in double overtime. Great game.
I'm sure you won though, because you did bring it up. What was the score?
What's that?
What was the score in that game?
It was tied. Remember your player fell or tripped or dove in the box and got a penalty, and then we ended up going to overtime.
Oh yeah,
tying,
on Tuesdays we have that Olympic diving practice. I forgot.
Well, Coach Sean, you're a well-known sandbagger. So so the last week to you, I know you have a big district. You and Robinson have kind of separated yourselves from the field. I mean, you're in good shape in terms of qualifying for the regionals. How do you approach this week?
No, and I am good at sandbagging. Thank you for the compliment. No, I mean, for me, I want to get people healthy. And, at the end of the day, like I know the boys really want to have an undefeated season. That's lovely. But as Bo was talking about, and I think John and Dan are the same way, like we want to get to the States. Like that's where the big stuff is. That's where the exciting stuff is. So I'm going to try to rest kids as I've been trying to do the last couple of weeks. Because to me, I want to get to regionals, May 21st or whenever it is, with a largely healthy group. And right now I don't have that. And yes, I would love to beat Robinson. No one from Woodson likes Robinson. We get that. And it's fun. It's a great rivalry. It's not, we call it the Braddock Road battle, Franconia for you guys, Braddock Road for us. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like if they win it, it'll be disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. So as long as we're going to regionals, I'm good. And I just want to be healthy. But, the boys, we roll out tomorrow. They're motivated and hopefully we can, get a result against Westpo and finish in first and have that protection that the other people get for finishing first. That would be great for regionals.
Yeah. Well, Coach Dan, now I know in your circumstance, you guys are right probably in the middle of the table. So you probably would like a little momentum going into postseason because, anything can happen when you get to knockout. So I'm sure you're probably not going to take these games for granted.
No, not at all. We have a tough game tomorrow against a Justice team that is tough to beat, and we are going to do everything we can to win that game, essentially to improve our seeding. We can finish anywhere, I think John and I were talking about it today, anywhere between 4th and 6th, depending upon tomorrow night's results in our district. 4th place would be great. It's always better to play at home. You don't have to ride that big yellow bus. You don't have to deal with potentially getting stuck on the small patch of cement for warm-ups or something like that. It's the routine, and whether they'll admit it or not, high school boys are absolutely creatures of habit. So trying to keep that as uniform as possible is always best. Kind of speaks to what Bo was talking about earlier, making sure that everything goes the way it's supposed to go in the lead up as well as the actual game. So we're ready. We're going to go out and we're going to try and win the game, and then we'll jump on the phone with John and see how all the different results panned out and see where we are. Hopefully we're hosting. If not, then we reorganize and we get ready to take a ride on a bus and try and win at somebody else's place.
And then you tell the kids riding the bus is better, right? And that's and you move on to the next one. Guys, how much have you enjoyed? So last time we talked, you're not even sure which kids are going to try out for your team. And at this point of the year, you've got 12 games behind you. Your team's really grown. You have kids in different positions than you ever imagined. Kids that stepped up and done things that you didn't even know can play. It's really fun watching this process. I remember Coach Bo's team, the year he won state. I mean, Yorktown had beaten that team 4 times out of 5. But by the end of the year when they won state, they were unplayable. They were playing on a different level. I mean, the intensity level, the way they were playing, they had just grown as a team. How much have you guys enjoyed watching these kids that you're coaching grow, or the process generally, how it works?
I think it's the best part of the job. Bo, go ahead.
No, you go. I went. You actually spoke. So speaking.
You gotta go,
I think
Yeah.
I think it's the best part of the job.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't know. To me, it's the most rewarding because at the end of the day, like when you're like trying not to cry yourself, kids are crying, and you really made progress. You developed a group. They care for each other. No one wants to leave the field. Season's over. Everyone's still standing around. That just makes me feel like I'm a part of something that's important and it matters. And the kids like each other. They got something out of it. So to me, like that development. And that's why all the coaches on this call have been so successful. They get the development done. Like I don't want to see Lewis or Hayfield or Bo anytime after May 15th. Forget about it. You know, like those teams know what they're doing. They know how to chase the game. They know how to kill off the game. So I think that's to me, like as a coach, that's the most rewarding aspect to see the development because soccer can go awry, as Bo was talking about earlier. You can lose and you dominated and you did everything you're supposed to do, but the game's done and its season's over. But you can still feel good about the progress.
Yeah. Thanks.
Go
Coach.
ahead, Bo.
Yeah.
Give us something more than
No, the reality is, it's crunch time, and you get to see what you put together, and you get to see. I personally give a lot of ownership to the teams, to my players. It's not my team. I can't play. I can't really influence the game too much once it starts. Really, it's down to them, and if they want to compete. And it's funny. I'm starting to notice things that US soccer is eliminating from young boys not heading the ball. And I'm starting to see it impact the kids when they're older because the way they head the ball is more dangerous than if they've been taught to head the ball when they were younger. Right. So all this malarkey about concussions for 8 and 9-year-olds, I mean, utter rubbish. You can still teach a kid to head a ball with a soft ball, but we've got these so-called people with PhDs that couldn't walk in a straight line. Right. So, I mean, they've got more education and common sense. Right. So the reality is some of these kids now are heading balls in such a dangerous way by not keeping their eye on the ball, heading the ball on the top of their head or running through a player or not looking at the ball when jumping in the air. So they're just running into a player. Right. So it's becoming actually quite dangerous. But in order to be successful, you need your kids to be really competitive. And a part of the game of winning is if you let the ball bounce, you're going to lose. Right. If your back four choose to let the ball bounce and then go up for the header, no chance. Anybody athletic, attacking wise, is going to win that. Flick it on there in the final third. They've turned you around. You're in trouble. All because you didn't attack a ball. So I'm starting to notice it for the first time, not just with our team. I've noticed it with other teams we've played against. So to be honest with you, it's quite dangerous that we're not teaching young boys and young girls to head a ball. And
Coach, I want to interrupt you real fast about that. I'll let you get back to how your team has grown. I talked to the Hayfield football coach and also a Madison football coach, Coach Overton, about this. He says a lot of times, yes, if you don't play tackle football when they're young, they do avoid injury, but they get injured more often when they get older because they don't know how to play tackle football. So it's one of those things where, yes, you will avoid some injuries when they're young, but they may actually be more vulnerable to injury not having played tackle. But anyway, I just sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So I find we're just a little less aggressive. We are young, but I think we're a little less aggressive across the board. Not all individuals, but across the board, I think. And if I can get 11 or 12, and this week will be great for us. These 2 games are really, really hard, especially tomorrow night. I mean, they're meant to be a very good team. McLean, they've gone out and scored a lot of goals in some games. They've had a few dodgy results because things have gone a little crazy, but that happens for every team. But we just didn't play very well in the last game, and I'm hoping that was a blip. And if it was a blip, then I feel like we can win everything. I really believe in them. So the most important thing for me is we compete, because once the ball is on the ground, our kids can play. Yeah, we make mistakes, but that's life. But once the ball is on the deck, they're pretty good. They can play, but we've got to be good enough to get the ball down. And the only other issue I'm noticing is we're not a very talkative team, and that can be a problem as well. But I think the team's definitely grown and they're ready. And the reality is we're going to find out next week or not whether we are. But I believe in them and think they're good enough, so I'm pretty much looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Coach John or Coach Dan, you want to chime in here or about how important these?
Yeah, I think we've hit some growing pains this year. We had some guys come back from last year's team, a couple of them that are really good players and are playing at a really high level, and we expected that out of them. But we've also got some guys that didn't play big minutes last year, and have had to learn that last year was last year. You mentioned earlier kind of having a target on our back, but even that aside, because of the level in this area and the parity we've been talking about, they've got to show up and compete every night. And some of them have had to take on more ownership and more of a leadership role. And I think part of the beauty of high school soccer is we're talking 2.5, 3 months max. And that's if you play all the way to the end. And we talk about it's a marathon and a sprint at the same time, but a lot of growth happens. A lot of kids realize that they have more in them than they thought they had. And not necessarily from a technical or a soccer side, but from a leadership side and from a being able to handle emotions kind of side of things. And to be perfectly honest, and those people that I teach with at Hayfield would probably hate me when they hear this, but they don't look forward to going to school. They look forward to playing soccer, or they look forward to playing football for Coach Overton or basketball for Coach Lose. Like, this is what they look forward to. So if they can have a little bit of success along the way, it makes things that much better for them. And as Sean said, you know, just seeing how they come together and seeing them grow as people, it is almost more important to me than the end result on the field. Doesn't mean that I want to lose to John in a district final or something like that. It just means that it's a little bit easier to accept when the results don't go our way.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Coach. Yeah, John. So, I was talking about the growth of teams. Well, your team got off to a great start. Despite your losses to graduation in the last 2 years, but obviously you can still grow because it's moving. You want to be a moving target. Everyone is getting better and playing well.
Yeah, no, it's been a really, really different last 5 years than the first 9 years at Lewis / Lee. But I think, again, like everybody is invested here in building that culture, that identity, and really that attracts, as we talked about it the first time we got together this year, with regards to attracting the talent from your school to want to come out and wear your badge and wear their badge and, really, represent what it is to be a Lancer, at least, from my kids' perspective. And, we had the opportunity to really redefine what that means within the program. And, because of the time and dues put in by the folks that are still coming out to games, the alumni in the area or the folks that are out on pretty much, I guess, graduation / college is coming to an end here this week. We're going to have more and more alumni in the stands, which is great. And the kids really feed off of that. And, it's watching the evolution, right? Because each team's different, each leadership set's different. I mean, each of the young kids that are now, being contributing members to this team, they've all kind of grown. And as Sean's saying, like, that's why we do this, right? To really see the joy in these kids' faces as they're finding their successes, they're struggling with their defeats or individual battles, but then also watching how they lift each other up in those tough moments. And, it's like, proud papa moment, right? But just watching these kids in these individual situations be successful or pick themselves up when they fall, like, it's just incredible. The resiliency that, people talk about this generation being different. It definitely is. And they communicate differently and all that kind of fun stuff. But I think there's definitely some alphas out there that are growing, and they're going to be really great contributing members to the local community. And it's just, you see these adversities. We're talking about health, you like us, we just lost one of our leading goal scorers with an MCL playing club 2 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry.
And, that's a bummer. But he's got, 2 guys behind him that are sitting here biting at the bit to really make his investment in the program his sophomore year worthwhile, and just makes him want to come back more to contribute next year and beyond. But it's like those kind of situations and watching how the team and program handle that adversity. The record might be one thing, but we still haven't played a perfect game yet. But again, being able to work together to solve those common challenges has really just been a blessing of this season, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. Well, let's talk a bit about the teams that are some of the teams that have grown and the teams to watch. Now, obviously, Herndon has been tough all year. Lewis, Coach Millward's team's undefeated. Westfield was undefeated until recently. They lost to South Lakes on a definitely a colossal. Falls Church has had a tremendous year. Coach Burke's team, Woodson, has taken 3 ties, but it's undefeated. Robinson has been very consistent. McLean had a loss or 2 that were unfortunate, but then very tough. But I did a poll today on the site, and 4 of the teams to watch in terms of underdogs are Robinson, Wakefield, Washington Lee, and Lake Braddock. We got a surprise guest here, guys, and this is Coach Bo's biggest nightmare. My son Chandler just finished exams. He's wanted to come in and say hi. Here's a kid, as a midfielder for Yorktown, and 15 points against Langley. He won 13. So, Coach, I should have warned you, Coach, he was going to come.
I actually think he's a much better looking lad than he used
good,
to.
y'all?
Early headline.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
How you doing, Chandler?
I'm doing all right. Just finished up exams. Feeling good. It's over.
You got someone on your top lip. You all right?
I know.
Yeah. So, well, Chandler, I was going to talk about some of the teams to watch, and then some of the teams that are underrated. But Coach Burke mentioned something earlier today that was interesting about he knows what's coming. That some of these players are going to play their last organized soccer game very soon, and they don't even realize that moment yet because it really hits you when it happens. But I remember as a father watching you play, I was very proud of how you handled these last moments because you knew you weren't playing in college, but I felt like you gave 110%. Your last games, and you went out on the front foot as a player. When your career was ending, were you getting sentimental about it being over? Was your focus on just getting back to the state tournament from the year before, or were you sad thinking one day it's going to be over?
I mean, I just wanted to win, man. Like, I didn't really care about. I mean, I was thinking like, man, maybe this would be our last game. But it's like, as soon as I thought that, I'd be like, nah, you can't think like that. And so, like, I mean, of course, I would like sometimes I'll think about it, but like I was just focused on winning. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to play good. That was the main thing. I just wanted to play good.
Yeah. Was that one of the saddest moments you had when you lost against McLean and that was your last high school game?
It was pretty sad. I mean, it sucked that it was McLean. Like, I mean, of all schools, it had to be them. Yeah, but
Not as sad as leaving dad at home for college.
That's right.
It's a close second.
Close
second.
Good save.
Yeah, but well, thanks, John. Well, Coach Bo, we talk about this offline a lot, and that a lot of times you've mentioned to me that kids don't realize until much later on, how much they're going to miss it, and they tend to take for granted those days in high school. But what are your thoughts about these final moments you have with these players? So some of these players have been with you for a few years.
I mean, even for me, year after year, when the season ends, there's a void. Right? Even when you win it all, and your last game's a win, it's still a void because you miss seeing them at practice, you miss the banter, you miss them, trying hard, you miss adversity, you miss everything, you miss, it's part of the team. So to be honest with you, it kind of sucks when you lose, but it sucks when it's over regardless, because I think spending time around young guys, young men, and watching them develop, whether they go in whichever direction they go, is interesting, and it's nice to be a part of it. It's nice to try and make an influence in someone's life that improves them as a person and a player. I'm not saying I'm the most skilled person for that, but I think I have some minor qualities that help. So, but it's just nice to see. I try really hard to make it their team. I want them to fall in love with it. It's the first time in my life they've been given permission. It's their team, not their coach's team, not their parents' team, not the money, taking them to a team. Not it's their team, and they can make of it whatever they want. And when I look back when we all played, I still know people from it's many years ago when I played. I think me and Jesus were walking around the planet at the same time. Maybe even a few dinosaurs. I'm that old, but the reality is, I still have fond memories of playing, and it's not so much the playing that I miss because I'm physically unable, but I really miss the banter. I really miss the camaraderie. I really miss trying to get a result. But it was the banter, little things like you guys don't have it here, but we would come out of dressing rooms and all our studs banging on the concrete before we got to the grass, right? And then, for us, it was like, big tubs, not showers, but it was just like a lot going on. We ate together, we did things together, and it wasn't just football. You bonded, it's really great when you discover your team are having dinners together and socializing together because they're the memories they'll have. Because football is football is football. I mean, I probably remember 4 or 5 things from my own playing career. That's about it, really. And so, but I do remember a lot of other things, and it can lead to friendships and change your life, right? And I'm going on way too much.
Yeah.
Over to Drickey.
Well, Coach, you were around when Moses was around, even before.
Yeah, he didn't speak to me, he didn't like me.
Yeah. So Coach Sean, you've been fortunate and effective enough to have made deep runs in the tournament the last few years. So my guess is you don't even mention at the end could be near. You just try to keep real positive, Coach Sean?
Yeah, block and tackle, right? Next game up. Because the simpler you make it, right, the easier that they can follow the instruction. People start looking ahead and kind of skipping games. We've already talked about it here today, right? I mean, all it takes is one letdown. We experienced it, against a very good Kellum team that Drickey took all the way to freaking PK shootouts. We fell asleep for 45 seconds and it cost us a 1-0 game. But I still can vividly walk through those 45 seconds and on my one leg with an Achilles cast, hopping down the sideline, yelling at the right back who got freaking pulled out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But those memories still haunt me. And again, trying to get folks prepared for, that full, 2 40-minute halves and all the things and chaos that can occur inside that time. And, how to band together, when the chips kind of get stacked against you. It's just kind of how you have to hit the ground because it's going to be a food fight from here on out. And, that's what makes it really exciting. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, Coach Stan, last year when you made the deep run, did it make it harder to say goodbye? I mean, you had more time with them, but because you had more time with them, did you get more attached as the run went on?
It did. It was supposed to be the last run we made, but here I am almost a year later still coaching. So there's that. We don't discuss that in the house because the wife doesn't enjoy that part of things. But it does. It does. It doesn't make it harder or easier. It just makes it different, right? Because I've had some teams where we didn't make a run at all. Like we barely ran from the locker room to the field, but it was still hard at the end of the season to say, hey, you put in all this hard work and now it's done. Like Bo touched on earlier, even when you have success, 3:30, 4 o'clock rolls around and you're like, wow, what am I doing with myself right now? I should be at the field or I should be meeting in the locker room or we should be breaking down some film. But I think the one thing I can take from the run last year is seeing the guys come back this year, and some of them have started to show up this week, is a little happier because they've started to reminisce about what life was like a year ago and what we were preparing for. And my hope is that this year's team kind of feels some of that fire and that motivates guys a little bit more to say, well, these guys did it and they're back here training with us and supporting us. So now let's get our stuff together and let's do it again.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Coach. Coach Sean, now last year we talked after your last game, and one thing I remember you telling me was that it hurt but you thought it was going to hurt a little bit more, and you thought the kids hurt, but it's almost like you expected to hurt. You almost want it to hurt. You want the kids to care, because that means that you had them in the right frame of mind, I think. Do you remember us talking about that?
No, I don't actually. That's interesting that I said that, but no, it must have been at that point in time. I thought there was a little bit of gas in the tank, and the boys didn't get to it. And
Yeah.
considering the difference between last year's team and this year's team, it's the makeup's generally the same. Not we didn't graduate a ton of talent outside of my son. Just kidding. He was a role player. But at the end of the day, and I think that in coaching your son, that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother level of emotion and whatnot. But I feel like that team last year, we could have done a little bit more, and it just wasn't there. And sometimes, and I learned this at TJ kids when I coached there for 12 years. Sometimes they have something greater to them than soccer, and you have to accept that, and there's nothing you can do about it. But like the group I have this year, I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be in tears, and whether they win it all, they're going to have the void that Bo and Dan and John are talking about. I mean, I think this is what coaching is it's so great. We love being a part of teams when we were younger, and we're still a part of teams as we're getting very, very old, and it's lovely. I mean, I'll coach hopefully till the day I die. There's nothing better. And it's just like the banter. I mean, like I would do this podcast every week just to shoot the shit with you guys, talk shit, make fun of each other. I mean, that's what men need, and we're so lucky to have it, and we're so lucky to be in an area that values soccer and someone like you who does these podcasts.
Oh,
Next time.
well,
Next
thanks.
time we'll
Well,
talk.
no, I look forward to this. This is great. You guys do a wonderful job. All the heavy lifting. I just get to go watch the games and to talk about it. And I can't wait. Like next week, Chandler will be going to the games with me.
Well, Chandler, you got to get some coaching certifications under your belt there, buddy.
Yeah, you need to take over from your father because he keeps abusing Langley. And my attack back to that is if you sat in his chair every time he drops his head, the bright light off the top of his head is blinding me.
Chill on my dad, man. Come on.
You need to take over. You take the microphone.
Exactly. Oh,
I love you, Dad. Don't worry, but I got to take the piss because he rips me to pieces every time we get together.
like if you can't make fun of Langley, there's no use to really be in this.
I've always been told
huh?
taking the Mickey it's a sign of affection. So
Exactly. So, well, I did want to get to a little bit of the sleeper teams, and Chandler, you got to take notes here because you haven't seen a lot of these teams play yet.
Right.
But I did mention that I had a poll today on the group, Instagram group, the 4 underrated teams. I had Robinson, Wakefield, Washington Lee, and Lake Braddock. Not the 4 best teams, but the underrated teams, and it was very close between Wakefield and Robinson. How do you guys feel about that vote? Would you say those are 2 underrated teams as we head into postseason?
I've heard from many people that Robinson are terrific.
Oh, awesome.
And I've seen Wakefield. They've got some very talented players, and they can be very dangerous if you don't pay attention. And once they get the wind behind their sails, their confidence just rises and rises. So yeah, I think the other 2 teams I don't know much about, but those 2 teams I've heard plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Lake Braddock and Robinson. Robinson's very, very good. I mean, they scare the heck out of me. They have great midfield, well organized. Their coach Chris Jennings has come back from some personal stuff, and
That's right, he's back.
Yeah, he's back coaching, and it's great to see him doing his thing again. So I think the boys are fired up for him to be back at full health and getting after it. So there's some energy, I think, with them. It's good. But to give Lake Braddock credit, they just, I believe, tied him 1-1 the other night.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Wakefield they scare me, the way how technical they are on the ball, how they move it around. They're tough.
Wakefield's tiny. The goal, I mean, I think the tallest guy's 5'11", and he towers over the rest of them. But I've never seen a team create chances against McLean. They must have created like 20 chances. They just couldn't score. This is a team that will create chances. They just don't have any size at all. So if you're able to, to get some set pieces and some corners, I think, there'll be a little challenge. But they do have some technical players all throughout, the starting 11, and they're deep. They can go 15 deep. They can go 4 or 5 deep to 15 player, and so on.
So I definitely want to expound on that. So Eddie's got those boys really working hard. We played 3 out of the 4 of those teams. one being a scrimmage, but we also played Burke's team over here, and that was a freaking rainy scrimmage over there at Woodson. But when we played WNL and in the scrimmage, they're just they don't have the Lucas Mendez's of the world, but they've got 11 firm athletes that know how to play soccer really well. So possession strong with them. Their keepers, a really integral part of their team. But they definitely have really strong organization and a program history that they're playing for. Wakefield, they can come at you with a 3-5-2. They can come at you with a 3-4-3. They're very dynamic in their adjustments. And as you indicated, very technical and fast. And so they're here to make some noise. And then, Lake Braddock and Tony's team, I mean, their keeper might be one of the taller keepers in the area. And he's a very, very strong player as well. So they're dangerous, especially when he gets hot. Their midfield's organized and their back line is talented as well. So all those, I mean, again, this regional tournament's going to be great. Very excited to see the matchups, because I think we talked about that earlier. It's all about matchups. It's all about, playing folks when you're healthy or healthier, as well as, momentum comes and goes every 80 minutes. You can come in without it and really, really upset the apple cart.
Yeah. Coach Dan, do you want to jump in here or?
I think what Eddie's done at Wakefield is absolutely phenomenal. They've always been on our schedule this year. It just didn't work out for scheduling reasons. But he's done similar to what John's done at Lewis and absolutely turned that program around. They've always had one or two talented kids and then just a bunch of guys that worked hard. But I think he's turned that team into a real tough team that is going to scare a lot of people. And it wouldn't surprise me if they go on a long run. Tony's got the pedigree at Lake Braddock. He won a state title at Mount Vernon. And they're always a tough out. So, I think any one of those four teams is a team that you don't want to play. But I would also echo John's sentiments. Like, there's really not too many teams in Northern Virginia that I can say, oh yeah, we got that team. That's a good matchup for us. We're going to be okay. I think top to bottom, every district, there's going to be a lot of surprises next week in the district tournament. And that's just going to make the regional tournament that much more difficult. So, a team that you thought you weren't going to play till maybe later in the rounds, you might have to see early on. And that's, I told the boys last year, if we can get out of our region, you can play with anybody in the state. And I think we saw that last year. John's team and our team both made the semifinals. I think if we had not had to play Langley and he had not had to play Herndon, I think that's your final four. I think if we don't play other Northern Virginia schools, the beach schools probably don't advance to the semifinals, and it's an all Northern region affair or Northern Virginia affair. But that's the reality of this area, is that there are teams like Wakefield that have flown under the radar, or teams like Westfield. I personally, and Sean, I think, can back this up. I think we knew Westfield was going to be good. We're Valor guys, and a lot of those guys are Valor kids. So this is their year. They've had a fantastic year, and Eric Wyman has done a fantastic job with them. But it doesn't surprise me because the talent's there. And they've put it together, and he's done a good job of getting them to show up every night and play. And even though they are highly rated, I think they're going to surprise some teams.
No, Dan, I think you're right, because they had a great season last year, and they had that Oakton thing. And I think
that was the Oakton upset.
that was, I think, and like, any good coach, Eric's like, been like, okay, you're going to steady the ship this year. And I think you're right. I think they're going to make a deep run. I think they're ready for it. And I'm glad they're on the other side of things for us.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Bo.
Yeah.
I think Westfield's one of the strongest teams that I saw all year in terms of talent, from top to bottom. They're big, they're physical, they're athletic. They got a striker that can head who's tall. They have a dynamic striker that's just amazing.
Yeah.
So I think Westfield, their roster is just stacked.
Yeah, a lot of good kids on that team. Yeah.
Yeah. Bo, do you want to jump in here? Or did you already? So Chandler, I wanted to ask something Coach Drickey said about, once you escape the district, when you get to the regionals, you might be able to surprise people. When you got out of the Liberty district and you went to regionals, was that enjoyable when you got to play against new kids and maybe teams that didn't know you better? Was that a good feeling for you?
Of course. I mean, sorry, there's a background noise. It's a train, but it was real fun. I mean, like we're at regionals now. I'm still trying to win, and like now, like I can talk trash to like whoever like my travel teammates are, who are on the teams that we're like in the region of. So that's always cool. But I mean, yeah, it's different too because like for example, like my senior year, we didn't get to play South Lakes in like our district games at all because they moved. But then it was cool to play them again and beat them again in the region. So that was cool. But yeah, so it's different and like you're further. It's regional. It means something. So
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, one more game.
Aren't South Lakes considered a bit of a sleeper as well?
Yeah, well, they beat Westfield, with that last second goal, and their record, has been solid. I just think the Concord I think the Concord and Liberty probably top to bottom are the toughest. Like if Marshall was not in the Liberty, they would be 500 probably in most districts. But it's just there's just no sure wins in the Liberty and also the Concord. I think Chantilly's probably, a little bit challenged, to be in a Concord. I did want to ask about players. Who are some of your player of the year candidates? I know it's early, but one comes to mind right away. Two come to mind right away is Edwin Castillo at Falls Church, who I interviewed a month or so ago. Just one of the most cold-blooded finishers you'll ever see. A great player, and also Lucho Fuentes. I almost said Lucho Huerta, who played at Lyon years ago. But anyway, he's a midfielder going to James Madison this year. Just when they beat McLean, they were a man down for 20 minutes, and they scored 2 goals a man down. This guy was all over the field. He was a one-man. He just refused to lose that day. He scored the goal that put him ahead, but he's unbelievable. I mean, when they went a man down, he was even more determined that we were going to win this game. So those are 2 guys that come to mind. I saw Woodson has some really nice players. I think Jack Garwood, I believe, coach.
Garwood's like, guess our version of David Beckham, can spray the ball all over the park, does a great job. He's great character kid too. So he's really good with the ball distribution. Amazing.
Yeah. Anyone else, guys, that come to mind as potential players of the year?
No, I think you nailed them, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I love my other forward, Alex Garrison. He's got a bunch of goals, but I think what you're talking about are people that just take over the game and run it. And it's hard to argue with the 2 you mentioned.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's scary about Herndon is Atu Basong. He played 1 game. So he came back and played in the McLean game. He came in late. He had a great impact. Limped out. Hadn't played since. I'm hoping that he's healthy, but he's a UVA commit. If Herndon gets him back, they're going to be extremely hard to beat.
If he plays, they win.
They're going to be very tough if he plays
because he makes them so much better.
Yeah, he's so classy.
Yeah, I mean, when you start dealing with him, then that creates space for others. That he's a player that makes other players better.
Yeah,
exactly right. All right, so guys, let's talk a little bit about how has the officiating been this year?
I think for the most part, pretty good, but I just get frustrated with the rule changes and non-communication and people other than referees getting involved in making decisions about how the game should be played. I don't understand why we play overtime in regular season at all, even in the district games. Makes no sense, right? You don't need to play overtime. You get 1 point for a draw, 3 for a win. Playoffs, knockout games, we're going to have overtime. The only thing that happens in overtime, kids get injured, bad decisions are made. What's the point? We should only be playing 1 game a week anyway. That's another discussion. We shouldn't be playing 2 games a week. You're playing 1 game on a Friday night. That's it. And if you're playing soccer at our school, we can play lacrosse at the other school. Right? So the reality, they're in school to study, and then the varsity coach can be involved with the JV team as well a little bit more. But I digress. But
yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I wish they could, like, I know in Georgia, the season starts in late January and goes until the same time we go. So they spread everything out. But you guys have a very compressed time with the play, and it's not like the clubs shut down. You have a compressed time, and the clubs keep going. So it's not optimal. But I think now I've noticed the kids aren't even paying attention to their clubs. The older kids are just focused on high school more and more. I've had more kids tell me, "Are you Nova Soccer Source?" Well, don't post that photo of me on your site because they don't want their clubs to find out they're playing. So it's happening more and more this time. So I think we are seeing more of that. Anyone else want to talk about officials or rule changes or?
No, I agree
mean-
with Bo. I mean, they've been. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't know. I was just echoing that. I thought this year's been, overall consistent with the officiating, and consistency at least helps everybody play the same way and approach the game the same way. I think, over the last couple of years, the points of emphasis have been interesting. And again, that's not the referees choosing those points of emphasis. They're being told what to focus on. I wish it was more about certain times in the game and not about, apparel and what kids do with their stupid socks. Because as a coach, I mean, that's the last thing you're really thinking of when you're about to go play a game is did they remember the stupid socks to go underneath the stupid socks they're cutting? And yet everybody doesn't have any money to pay for socks.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Bo?
Have to be a certain color. The thing about the whole clock stopping rubbish, just put the clock on 40 minutes, let it run to 0, then let the referee tell the little person in the clock tower, add 3 minutes, please. Problem solved. Right?
Yeah.
But it's this putting your hands up like a crucifix, stop the clock, having a conversation, drama. I forgot to stop the clock. I didn't stop the clock. Just let the game run the 40 minutes, and then at some point up 3 or 4 fingers, let them add it on the clock, and we all know. And then the players know it. I mean, I know we live in a world that wants to know everything that's going to happen in the next 20 seconds. We've kind of ruined the professional game now as well. They're like 112 minutes long now because we play 52 minutes in the first half and 54 minutes in the second half because we've got to pay for more advertisers. But, it's just it's a simple game. We're making it confusing. There's a ball, a pitch, let's go play. Right? But no, everybody's got to be involved. Everybody's got to be important. What a lot of rubbish.
Let's wait till the new rule on the goalie holding the ball too long. Automatic throw in. Watch out.
Yeah.
Well, it's meant to be 6 seconds. I've never seen that enforced in the history of mankind.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Have you seen it? You've had it enforced in this season.
Yeah. No.
No. They're changing that rule though.
Yeah.
So what's it going to be?
No,
I
they're
think both. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
no, they're actually going to try to enforce either 6 or 8 seconds. You get a warning, and if you fail on the first warning, then it's either going to be a corner kick for the other team if you hold the ball too long, or a throw in inside like the 18 box. It's the dumbest rule, and it's supposed to be trialed next year.
I think they found it on a website called www.bullshit.com.
Right next to the blue cards.
Yeah, blue cards. Well, Coach Bo talked about in the Herndon game where they lost a barn burner, that it seemed like they let more time go than just the 2 minutes that were frozen on the clock. But I've noticed in a lot of games when they do blow that 2 minutes in the middle of an offensive play, which I find very frustrating. I mean, if a team is going to goal, I guess the high school rule is you're supposed to blow the game. It doesn't matter if they're going to goal.
I disagree. If time's up. For example, in one game we're down 1-0 or down by a goal. There's no time left. I knew there was no time left. Anybody with a brain knows anybody knows there's no time left. And we stood there looking at the ball and didn't take the corner. So the referee blew the whistle, and everybody's upset. Well, it was pretty obvious we had to take the corner quickly. Don't wait for the normal kicker to come over and take the ball. Don't wait for things just ping the ball in the box. Because if you don't, and we didn't ping it in and we lost. Who knows? Maybe if we pinged it in, We draw the game.
That was the Herndon game, right?
No, that was another game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Herndon game was frustrating because we just didn't know how long was left. There was no communication, and we ended up playing 3.5 minutes after the. I mean, we scored when the clock was on 0. Then we continued for another 3.5 minutes.
I think soccer is the only game when you're unclear about how much time is left, right? There's no other sport. It's just funny how it's like that. But yeah. So, well, guys. Well, look, this has been great. I'm glad you guys, did this impromptu call. I was looking forward to it. I got a chance to see Coach Drickey. I did not get a chance to see you guys play, but I saw the other 4. I saw their teams play this year. I didn't see Coach John live, but I saw them on video at least twice. I did finally saw Coach Sean against Yorktown, but I saw him on video at least a couple times. I saw Coach Bo live. You guys are all doing a great job. Hope you guys, go far in the tournament so you can come back and talk to me about it. But I'm excited about the postseason. Excited. This has been another great season. You guys done amazing jobs with your team. I'm just really looking forward to the next couple of weeks. You guys have any closing thoughts?
No, I just hope I get to see John or Dan at some point because that would be good for both of us or all of us. We can meet down the road. We've done something right. And if we meet Bo, we definitely have done something right. So the 3 of us are going to try to find Bo in about 3 weeks.
I just wish you all the very best of luck and hope that
Good. So when we play you, roll over and die, and we'll win.
Well, we got to get there. But if we get there, we're not rolling over. Trust me. If our boys get there, there's no rolling over. There's full on.
I know. That's why it will be fun to see you.
It's rocking the Casbah time. Looking forward to it, gents.
Yeah, I wish you all the very best of luck.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much.
I'm wearing sunglasses for the next show.
Hey guys, I appreciate you. Thanks a lot for doing it.
Love you,
Hey,
mate.
thanks,
Thank you.
Sean.
Man, you guys, good luck.
Good luck,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.